Protesters against the conflict between Israel and Hamas are due to march in London later on today. The event's been organised by the campaign group Stop the War. In our central London studio right now, we can speak to John Rees, the national officer at the Stop the War coalition. A march. They're already on ceasefire. Are you a bit late?
Well, the ceasefire is only going to last 12 hours, so no, I think it's precisely the moment where we need to insist that this ceasefire needs not to be simply a temporary one. It needs to be a permanent cessation of violence, and a cessation of violence in this situation will require a lifting of the siege of Gaza. It is unreasonable and it is unacceptable to contain an entire population in a patch of ground which is no bigger than a quarter of the area of central London, and to think that this can result in a permanent peace unless that blockade is lifted.
Well, UN motions have tried to ask the Israelis to do all sorts of things over the last 30 years. They tend to ignore advice like that.
Yeah, it's remarkable, isn't it, that there have been more UN resolutions against the State of Israel than there were against Saddam Hussein's Iraq. That this is the only country in the Middle East that has nuclear weapons in a completely illegal and undeclared programme. And for these reasons, it's very important that our march is going from the Israeli embassy to the Houses of Parliament to insist to our government that they have to stop politically, diplomatically and militarily supporting the State of Israel, and it's only when they get serious about that that we can expect some peace in the Middle East.
Does Israel have a right to defend itself?
Well, let's look at the balance of forces here. They are the 5th largest military power in the world. They have the most advanced...
Do they have a right to defend themselves?
What, does Goliath have his right to defend himself against David? No, of course, the balance of forces here is that one group of people is jailing in a strip of land no wider than 7 miles and no longer than 32 miles and bombarding them. So it's not a question of defence. They are the aggressor in this situation.
Well, the British government thinks that Israel has a right to defend itself. The new Foreign Secretary has said so several times. The American government also thinks that Israel has a right to defend itself. They seem to preface every public statement along the same lines.
Yes, and these are the people who told us that it was a good idea to go to war in Afghanistan, it was a good idea to go to war in Iraq, it was a good idea to bomb Libya. So when they get something right, I'll be listening to their advice. Until then, I think this is another foreign policy disaster in exactly the same pattern as those foreign policy disasters.
Do you welcome people who were born in Israel to come on the march today?
Yes, there will be many, many Jews who are not Zionists, and one of the great myths peddled is that if you are a Jew, you must be a supporter of the State of Israel. But there will not only be marchers, there will be many of the speakers on today's demonstration who are Jews, and who are saying that actually it is the security and it is the lives of Jews that's putting at peril by the behaviour of the Zionist state.
Because the problem with a march like this is a simplistic analysis tends to be divided rather black and white, isn't it? You're either with us or against us, whichever side you happen to support, and therefore anti-Semitic accusations start flying through the air. How do you defend yourself against those?
Well, as I've just told you, how can it be that anti-Semitism would be at all tolerated on this march when very large numbers of people who are on the march will be Jews, when half a dozen of the main speakers will be Jews, when many of us, myself included, have a long record of anti-racist activity, including anti-Semitic activity. So that is a completely fallacious accusation.
John Rees, thanks for talking to us this morning.
Thank you.